It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege and honor to interview the USA Paralympian Goalball athlete, Amanda Denise. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in the sport of goalball?
So the funny thing is that I didn't know at all that I wanted to be in goalball. I played soccer when I was really, really young, like 3 or 4, and I got on the middle of the field, after some practices, and I realized I really couldn't see anything or contribute to anything, and I didn't want to continue with sports at all. And my parents sent me to a sport education camp, and they were basically like, you're going to stop saying that you can't do all these things. They're going to show you here how to do that. So like, even though I didn't love soccer, they showed us how to adapt soccer so that we could say we could do it too. And they had different Paralympians from like all the Paralympic sports from the winter or from the summer games. And all these summer athletes shared their sports with us, their stories, the passion that they had behind the sports. And I found goalball. And one thing I really loved about goalball was that everybody has the same advantage and disadvantage because everybody on the field has an equal like playing field due to the eye shades that you use. It offered a different challenge because when everybody tries goalball, they're kind of awful. You're not fantastic to begin with. You have to work at being good, but getting good and like falling in love with the process of being good is what made me really fall in love with the sport.
What was it like attending the University of Georgia and studying sports management while also performing as a professional athlete for goalball?
So there were different challenges kind of associated with going there because I just came back from the London Paralympic Games. We got nothing. We came back with a good old 8th place or so. And I was a little bit like obviously sad after we came back, but it gave me a lot of motivation to move forward and kind of connect with different people. I actually started at UGA with a degree in political science because I wanted to go to law school and be a lawyer because one thing I really like to do is argue. And that probably sounds awful, but it is true. Like I always have a response for everything. And I still really love law, but I never was able to fall in love with the field of political science to be able to get into law school. But I did love sports. And I also found out over time that I could indeed study sport management and still go to law school if I had the passion and drive to do so. But as I kind of got into that field, I realized that I love sport management and kind of working in sports more than I loved, the thought of being a lawyer. While training, the field of sport management just kind of appealed to me more because to be fair, like a lot of athletes at UGA study that, whether they're like college athletes or like, just athletes in general. And so the professors who are in that field are very flexible. They're willing to move your exams for you. They're willing to offer you anything that you need. If you have any stress or a competition, they'll send you different documents. And of course, it also helped that I can't see either. So they have to send me these documents anyways. But they were very, very flexible with me and they could relate to the sports. And through sport management and through being actually in the College of Education and kinesiology, I met Dr. McCulley, and he is actually a kinesiology professor over at UGA, and he's involved in a lot of disabled associations dealing with people who are disabled, dealing also with athletes who are looking for adaptions for sports. And he asked me, I see that you're training here, you're working out in the gym all the time and stuff, but are you interested in maybe somebody working with you? And I was like, that would be amazing. And so he set up one of the master students who was interested in being a strength and conditioning coach later to work with me. And there was like a whole interview process trying to match me with different people who would potentially be working with me. So I got to see them first, talk to them a little bit about my goals, what they could offer me, how much time they had for me every week. And then they found a fit, and she was fantastic. And I went from, maybe not being the best athlete who maybe didn't have like a plan of working out and stuff, but working out anyways, to like learning what it was really like to be maybe not a professional athlete per se, but an elite athlete who's working towards like, the highest stage. And so UGA was like a huge stepping stone for me to becoming like who I am right now.
That's so amazing. What was it like joining the Team USA team and the national team?
It was a really, it's kind of hard to explain, I guess. It was an interesting feeling for me because I always looked up to so many athletes when I was younger who were on the Paralympic team. Some of them, they became like role models for me. And then all of a sudden they were my teammates. And I always dreamed of like wearing the jersey. It wasn't like I wanted to covet a jersey, but like when I got my first one, I felt so proud. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I have my first USA jersey, like I was on the youth team first, but it's the Paralympic team that's like the big deal where you're, getting it's not like stardom, but you're getting kind of your taste at like what it is to go to different countries and meet different people and diverse people and diverse cultures. And it offers you kind of a different perspective on life. And to even like step out on court at the Paralympics the first time where there's like 10,000, 12,000 people like screaming and cheering, even if they're not from your country, was like one of the most like awe-inspiring things ever. So like I thought it was so cool to be on the national team. But the first time I ever stepped out like in the Copper Box in London in front of all of those people, I was just in awe. And like you can imagine like being 18 and like there's like over 10,000 people just in the stands just cheering. It was just one of the most like overwhelming, but one of the most amazing experiences that I've ever stepped into. And like I even take that with me today, like how much of an impact London made on like the athlete that I am right now.
Of course, in 2014, what was it like competing for the World Championship and bringing home a bronze medal?
We got a gold actually in Worlds in 2014. We won the World Championships. Worlds was actually an interesting experience for us. So one thing that we have to say is that the Paralympics in the US sometimes are not as well supported as the Olympics. And so we had only like three or four training camps that year leading into Worlds to get everybody together to train. And so we're looked at as one of the best teams in the world, but we probably came one of the least prepared, in my opinion. We had everything with the talent of the athletes, but maybe not the ability to match up to some of these teams. We had to learn throughout the tournament. We lost a lot of games at Worlds. Like we were like fourth place in our pool, only beating some of the lower level European teams. And we went into our quarterfinal and faced Brazil. And it was kind of one of those things where you have to say, like, we're looked at as a really high team, but you also have to take that pressure and move into quarterfinals and basically say that you're going to put your best foot forward no matter what. I only had a few years on the team at that point, but somehow I ended up being a starter. I don't want to say somehow. I worked hard to be a starter, and I wanted to make an impact on the team. And one of the things that I always look at myself going into games, and maybe it sounds really cliche or, something different, is like I don't want to look at like the team and say we're Team USA, we're really great, but I want to say like I'm Amanda and I want to put my best foot forward, and these people have expectations of me, but it is my expectations of myself that matter the most with like how games are going to go. And I always say, like, there's nothing to lose. Whenever you go into a game, there's always nothing to lose. You shouldn't be afraid of losing or giving up a goal or making a mistake, because those things happen in sports. But like, it is how you handle it that matters. And over the years, I've really learned and developed because of some of these things. And so we won our quarterfinals and we got to go into semis. And then we won our semifinals against Japan, who we lost to earlier in that tournament. And then we played Russia in the gold game, and we were already qualified for Rio. But like, can you imagine, hey, you already qualified, but what's the icing on the cake? It's the gold medal. And we won that against Russia, who we lost to earlier in the tournament. And so I think that we came through the tournament, people expected a lot of us, and then we became the underdogs. Like, Team USA, they're not that great this year. And so people didn't expect much. and then we came and won everything. And I think that's like who we are as a team, that people expect a lot, and then maybe somehow they go, maybe they're not, as good as we thought. And then we like basically get better throughout the tournament to try to like just sweep everybody off their feet. If you know what I mean.
Of course, in 2015 and 19, what was it like going to the Pan American Games and winning a silver medal?
So one really good thing that I love about the or the Pan American Games is that it's kind of like a mini Paralympics. You go into these games, you get to meet other Team USA athletes, but also athletes from different countries as well. There's other sports there, so you can like go to all these venues and watch these different sports that you may never have seen before. I never saw sitting volleyball before 2015. I didn't even know it was a sport. And then we got to see them play, and you start interacting with some of these other athletes from different teams and also from your own delegation, create relationships with them and kind of just connect, like network. And that is amazing. But competing is the real deal, right? You really can't complain about a silver medal without sounding ungrateful. And, there's times where I am ungrateful maybe for some silver medals, but like you also have to look at the experience and say that you're proud. I look back at those experiences. I'm proud of the overall result of like different things that you've shown, because there's so many teams who can go to these tournaments and they walk away with nothing. It's just the pat on the back. Hey, you guys are who you are, and you showed up here, and it's a feat to come. Like you have to be great to compete internationally, but to actually get into the medal rounds, it takes so much more than just being a good athlete or a good team. You also have to have the teamwork with each other, because without each other, you can't reach that. You have to have the communication with each other to be able to trust each other on and off the court. And you have to also like trust the staff and coaches that you have, and then add that all with the hard work that you've put in and the skills that you have. All of that equals out to the result that you get. And although silver is bittersweet, a lot of people say they would rather have a bronze than a silver. It's still something to really be proud of. So both of those games I'm proud of in different ways. 2015, we had more of an experienced team, and we still lost in the gold game to Brazil. And in 2019, we had more of we had a bittersweet ending. We got the silver. We were already qualified for the Paralympics. But the best part about that tournament was that we went into overtime, and we learned from that tournament how to handle pressure better, so that when we went to the Paralympics and we did have that same pressure over again, that we didn't crack in that situation. And I think that every experience and every tournament that you go to, there's always something to learn, whether it's a club tournament, a national team tournament. There's always something that you can take away from that.
What was that feeling like the first time you made your Paralympic team in 2016 to go to Rio?
So Rio was my second Paralympic Games. I can talk maybe about more of the first Paralympic Games for London. For London, the feeling of going to that Paralympic Games was surprising for me, because we had quite a lot of really good young athletes who were vying for that spot. For me, I worked hard and I wanted to get that spot, but my first dream was to go to Rio, because I entered into the national team training camps in 2010, quite late if you're trying to make London. And so my dream was always, I want to make Rio in 2016. This is my goal. I'm going to work hard for that, whatever that takes to get there. And, with the other three young athletes that we had, we never got like an inch of telling of like which one the coach maybe wanted to have more, because he was quite unemotional about things. So he treated us all the same. We had no favorites. And so you were always thinking like, will it be me maybe? Or is it going to be somebody else? What about this other person who's like a little bit older? I went into my meeting with him right before he told me that I was going to make the team. And he's talking to me like, okay, good job. You've done really great in the last couple of years. These are the kind of things you need to work on. And I'm thinking like, he's going to tell me then like, okay, you're not going to make the team because you're too young or you don't have enough experience or whatever else. And then he was like, well, obviously you made the spot. And I was like, what? Like, wow. And, my parents are like texting me like, did you make it? Like, what happened? Like, tell us. And I was like, no, I don't want to tell you till I get home. And then they were like, you have to tell us now. And I was like, I made the team, and it was like so amazing. Since I was also quite new to the national team pool, I may not have had the relationships with some of the other athletes like I do now, because I didn't know them as well, and we didn't meet each other as often as we do now. But it was amazing. Like, it was so amazing going there, especially being so young. It was so amazing learning about other people on the team, learning about other cultures. I gained like one of my really good friends. He's from Great Britain. We were friends before that Paralympic Games, but we became a lot closer afterwards. And like, he's so great. Like, whenever we talk or whatever, it's on a semi-regular basis still, even though he doesn't play the sport anymore. Like, he's still a really great friend that I met through the sport of goalball, and through London we became closer because we shared an experience together. And so, it's kind of some things to look at, that there's so many things. Sport is, of course, the pinnacle of what everybody's looking at going to the Paralympics, but it's also the other things beside that that make your experience so amazing. Like, the free stuff you get, or the experience meeting other people, all of that stuff kind of makes like such a huge difference for your experience of thinking, do I want to keep going in my career? What about retiring? Do I want to maybe look into, working a 40-hour-a-week job? And just, those kind of things to look back on. You forget throughout your experience, like, how it was when you made it the first time, and when you get selected again, you're like, oh, okay, good, I'm on the next team, and you're grateful for it. But you're never more grateful than your first experience that you get, the first time that they trusted you to go. And of course, in London, I was terrified, but I played a lot more than I thought I was going to. I was trusted with really big moments in London, and I failed in those really big moments, which made our team also fail. But I learned a lot, and I think that those failures that I had contributed to like my success and Team USA's success later on, that I was able to experience those at a younger age instead of coming in a little bit later and experiencing those, slowly. I was just thrown into deep water head first, and I had to take on everything, no matter if I was ready or not. So
How did you take what you learned during your time at London and Rio to help you where you were now, making the Tokyo team?
So one thing that I already touched on a little bit earlier was like, especially when I made my first Paralympics, like, nobody had any expectations of me. So surely my teammates did, and surely my coaches did. But other teams, they're looking and they're like, oh, Team USA has this like really young girl on this team. Like, okay, she's probably gonna, ride the bench and just be there for emotional support. And so like, one thing I always told myself is that I need to be the best version of Amanda that I can have, like, that I can give out. So whether that's like putting my best foot forward in the game, playing the role that I need to play at that time. And when I was younger, it was being a center and not throwing, and, letting other people take on the offense abilities, and being there just for that one thing. And although boring, because on my club team, I was like a better offense player, and I took on the role of doing both, the defense and the offense. It was the role that I had to play, learning how to play the role, learning from others what people expect in good leaders on the court, and what people don't expect, what people don't like in leaders. I've taken that with me throughout both of the games. Because as I've gone through London, I was the new person on the team. I didn't have a say in much, and my opinion wasn't really asked very often. And I'm a very outgoing person, and I love to talk, and I love to give my opinion, especially. But in my first Paralympics, I did not. And in my second Paralympics, I did a little bit more. And I also was able to actually know that I was going to start every single game, where in London, I didn't know what was going to happen before it did. So I knew that more pressure was going to be put on me in the second Paralympics. And I felt that as an athlete too. And I think that one thing, because of this pressure, was that, you may fail and you may make mistakes, and you may do that. But like, learning that your teammates also will make those mistakes, and your teammates are also there to help you learn and grow. And so I took that with me from Rio, that, maybe it didn't end the way we wanted to, but a bronze is like so amazing. Like, we ended Rio, we had great feelings. We were like super happy with our bronze medal, And I mean, it's better than our horrible finish in London. And I ended from that games, and I was like, okay, so gold next. Like, that's what I want. It was putting in the work. I moved out to Fort Wayne, Indiana to live in the resident goalball program, so that I could commit my time, like my life, to being like the best goalball athlete from Tokyo. And from Rio, I learned that. Like, from London, I learned how to, believe in myself. In Rio, I learned how to speak up for myself. I learned what leadership stuff from both of that games, and that from both of those games. I took that, I moved to Fort Wayne. I had to then learn how the communication between everybody was going to be the best, because, you know, you have to live with everybody and stay with them for for like 24 hours a day. And, you know, it's not really the most fantastic situation ever. So you learn like what works for people, what doesn't work for people. And I know for myself, I'm actually quite a picky person. So like what works for me doesn't work for somebody else. But I had to learn that, you know? And so those things mixed all in together, from like going to the Paralympics and doing all of this stuff, contributed to how we performed in Tokyo. And also our relationships with each other as individuals. We had to learn how to work together. No matter like if you have a outspoken personality like mine, or you have somebody who is more sensitive and has more feelings, you have to learn how to work together to be a good team. And we had actually a lot of team communication problems in Rio, quite honestly. And a lot of it had to do maybe with the, you know, if somebody's more outspoken, or if somebody likes somebody versus if they don't like somebody. And that contributes to how you play on the court. And our coach did a really great job after Rio. We had a new coach. Our old coach was also great too, but our new coach really invested that time in being like, okay, you guys might not be best friends. This is okay. Like, you guys just need to also understand how each other are. And although you can forget those things over time, like, you know, that somebody has this kind of personality or that kind of personality, I think the best thing that we took out of those experiences was to have a lot of respect for each other, even if we don't necessarily, you know, if we're not best friends, you know. And so it contributed to like a lot of mutual respect on the court, a lot of trust in each other moving forward. And I think that made a really big difference to our performance in Tokyo.
How was that experience like, obviously having your family and friends in both the previous two there to support you?
For me, it was really amazing. So my parents, they've always been really supportive with Goalball, like getting me in sports, bringing me to practice, like driving me an hour to practice twice a week when I was younger. Always really involved in Goalball. They started a association in Georgia for visually impaired and blind athletes so that they could play Goalball, but also other sports in general. And my dad actually owns Subway franchisees. And so part of his being his franchise, he would also like sponsor our team to go to different tournaments. And that was like really great. So like even people who didn't have a lot of income were able to attend those tournaments and have experience and like choose if they wanted to be a recreational goalball athlete, if they wanted to take their career a little bit higher, and, you know, put in that work. And so, you know, them going to the Paralympic Games was kind of maybe for them like a, wow, she made it after like everything that she's put in and also the support that we've offered her. But what was really different about London for me was my grandma. She was able to go and watch the games, and she had a carcinogenic cancer. So, and she had it, the doctors gave her only about 2 years to live, and she lived 10. And so over all of that time, she was a huge support. Like she went not only to the Paralympics to watch me play, but she also went to regional tournaments and just came to watch. She loved goalball. And so, you know, she saw London, and she almost made it to Rio, but unfortunately she passed away a little bit beforehand. For me, going to Rio and competing there and having my family there was amazing. And I wish that she also was able to make it as well. But like, for me, everything in Rio was for her. Like, I was like, this bronze medal, this, you know, the work that's put behind here. It was always thought like, if she was here, she would be able to see it and be proud of the result. And so it was really cool to walk away with that, because I was like, amazing. Like all of this was for her. I have this bronze medal, and, you know, my family was also able to be there and witness that. And so it was a really special moment for me to have them at both Paralympic Games, especially my grandma in London, but then to also like have all of that kind of pay off and, you know, have the medal for her too.
What were some of your favorite memories and moments competing in Tokyo?
Some of my favorite memories in Tokyo. So it maybe sounds a little bit crazy because maybe it's not really a competition thing, but something that was really special for me was being able to compete alongside my husband, who is also a Paralympic goalball athlete for Germany. And we were able to work together prior to the games, like for for years, like training together and like, you know, having mutual respect and support for each other. And then going to Tokyo, like having the experience to stay in the village together and compete together and do all of these things. Like for me, that was so special. And so that is a highlight. As far as like playing goes, my biggest highlight, and maybe it doesn't sound so important, was when we played Turkey in our group stage game and we beat them. We came back from behind and we beat the Paralympic champions, like two-time Paralympic champions, beat them as the underdog team. Nobody expected us to be a medalist in Tokyo. Turkey came into that game. They thought they were going to win, and we just beat them. And for me, it was really special because that is the team that people look at. They're like, Turkey, they're the best team. They have the best thrower in the world. They have this and they have that. And, you know, you go into the game and you're like, well, I have nothing to lose. And our team went in there with like really, you know, good attitudes, nothing to lose. For me, that game was particularly actually important because the men had quarterfinals that day, and my husband got eliminated, and they lost in their they got eliminated that game. They did not actually play quarterfinals. They lost to a team very highly, and so they had a situation in their pool where basically everybody had the same amount of points. One team kind of got the short end of the stick, and they were the team that had the shortest end of the stick. You know, I was warming up for that game against Turkey, and I found out I didn't get to see the game myself, and our coach was like, I'm so sorry. And, you know, it was a little bit of an emotional moment, I guess, for me, because I was like, well, that's horrible. And like, I was really sad. And, you know, my team came together, even though, you know, I had a really kind of a low before that game. And they were like, you know, he helped us with training. Like, he means a lot to our team too. And so when we go out and we play Turkey, we're playing for him. And for me, that was, it sounds maybe a little bit like, okay, it was a group stage game, but it was like, it was kind of a highlight, like, you know, that people can come together and be like, we're going to do this, and we're going to, you know, we're going to do this for him. And so that was really special. And then I guess you can take every single game after that as well, because we played Russia in our quarterfinals, and Russia's the world champions. And everybody expected them to win and blow the doors off of us. And we did it. We came back from being behind every single game in Tokyo. We were always behind, except when we played Egypt. We were always behind, and we were always able to come back. And so that's what made that game also really great, that we just came back from behind against the world champions and just kicked them out of the tournament. And then our semifinals against Brazil. Brazil was the underdog. You know, they came to the tournament. They had lost a lot of games pretty highly. We had already beaten them. And then we were behind, you know, like we didn't look at them and go, oh, of course we're going to win. We took the game so seriously, but then we ended up being 2-0 down. And then like a minute and 30 seconds in, I scored one of the goals, and it changed our momentum in the game. And 13 seconds left, I scored the tying goal, and it changed everything. We were finally on equal playing field. Everything in the gym changed from Brazil's side and from ours. And because we scored the last two goals, we had the momentum going into everything, into the overtime. We were the only team that almost came close to scoring both periods. Into the shootout, we were the team that had like kind of the upper hand. And I think that game is special for all of us, because that was the moment we knew that we were going to go play for gold. But not only that we were able to come back from like such a large deficit against a really high level team, and that like we did it. We got into a final, and that I think that's really cool.
How is it feeling, like obviously having PLY behind your last name?
It's actually something really special because, you know, obviously you have the Olympians, but the Paralympians are another type, you know, like you look at it and you're like, whoa, because Olympians, they're great, they're strong, they're fast. But then you have the Paralympians who have all of that, and they also have to overcome the disability that they acquired or were born with. And sometimes in life, like, you have a setback because you're disabled. Like, it just is the reality. Like, people look at you, they say, oh, Amanda, she can't do that because she's blind. You know, she can't have this job because she can't see. You know, and you have all these people your entire life telling you that you can't do something. And then you have obviously the opportunity to become this amazing athlete and a Paralympian. And PLY, obviously you made it when you have that, right? but not only that, you made it in life because you were able to overcome all the obstacles that were thrown in front of you and still succeed. No matter what the result is, if you get a medal, if you don't get a medal, like making it to the Paralympic Games in general is like, it's a huge feat. It just is. Like you have to earn your right to be there. And as you do with the Olympics as well, it's something that not everybody gets the chance to do. People dream of being there. People dream of like earning a medal there, but just even being there is like something that so many athletes don't get.
What is that feeling like getting to put on the Paralympic rings on your fingers? Not just one, but 3 for every time you win.
Well, I actually can't put all 3 on at a time, but it's really cool, to be honest. Like all of the rings have had different like looks and features on them, and it's a different feeling. I've never really worn a ring before. Like obviously I have rings, but it was cool kind of getting one and seeing like, wow, like this is something that I could wear out and people would be like, whoa, what's that? Like that's cool. And it always has a story behind it. There's always a story behind the ring, a story behind the medal you get, a story behind everything. And so you can share that with other people, and that ring that you have is something that you only share with the U.S. delegation, and I think that makes it really special as well.
What is it like, obviously, getting to meet your fans and having them ask for your autographs and photos with you?
Honestly, it was like a really, it was a different experience. Like I don't know how to explain it, but you see that and you're thinking like, oh, I'm just Amanda. Like, what's going on? And people are like, can I have your, can you sign this? Like, I've had people ask me to sign the most ridiculous things, and then of course they want a picture and stuff, and they're so happy to take a picture with you, and you're like, okay, it's just me. Like I've been living like this for God knows how many years, and you never really know like how it is until you get out there and you see that there's people who look up to you as like just an athlete or a role model. And people like watching over you, and it's really such an amazing experience.
What is it like, obviously, getting to play with some of your teammates like Mindy Cook?
Yeah, so it's really cool. So Mindy actually started Goalball like not even that long ago, to be fair. Like and so I actually met Mindy at a veterans camp way back, like I think I want to say like it was 2017. She went to like a camp, and it was in Fort Wayne, so it wasn't so far from her. And like, even as like a non-veteran athlete, you can sign up and say like, I want to go to this camp so I can learn skills. And Mindy went there, and I was like, okay, she has the potential to get better. And she went to her first tournament in Michigan, and I saw her play, and I was like, okay, like, she's gaining confidence, and, then we're training together all the time, and, playing together. And obviously she made her first Paralympic team. Like she's somebody who works hard as an athlete, and not only as an athlete in her regular life too. Like the girl works like a full-time 40-hour-a-week job, like and not an easy one either as well, and was still able to commit so much time to sports. So you can look at that and look at it with honestly like a lot of, you just have to be proud of her for being able to make a Paralympic team and also doing that as well. A lot of athletes can't do that, and so you have to say like she's somebody who's dedicated, she's somebody who has a lot of passion for what she does, and like she's somebody who doesn't give up, and so you really have to give her a lot of respect for that as well.
What are some of your future plans in the sport of goalball?
So I honestly want to get a gold medal. I want to have all 3 colors, but I really actually love working with younger people. So like working with youth athletes, teaching them some things maybe that I wish I would have learned when I was younger. Obviously, I want to compete until LA, and the goal right now is for Paris in 2024. But I want to win gold on my home court in 2028 in Paris, in front of my friends and my family, and whatever else. Like I want to have kids. I want to build a life outside of goalball. Goalball is super important to me, and I hope to always be able to have my foot in the door for the sport, whether it's for playing or coaching, or just like being there for younger athletes who are looking for somebody to point them in the right direction. I always want to stay involved in the sport.
What advice would you give those future Paralympians that are looking to compete in goalball and even go for multiple Paralympics?
My advice to them is that there's no point in which that you think you can't start. Wherever you're at right now, you can start there and only build up. So when people tell you you can't do it, or you're not good enough, or you know, you don't have enough skills at this moment. Like goalball is an ever evolving sport. Everything is always changing, even for the elite athletes in the sport. And like, even for us, you know, sometimes it's like, whoa, how did this person learn this? Or how did this person get wherever? Like, don't think that the moment isn't big enough for yourself to be able to make it. You have to be able to make the moment yourself. The hard work that you put behind you is going to make you the athlete that you are. Don't think about anything else other than that. And so, yeah.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media?
So I have Instagram. That's where I post the most, at DennisAmanda7. They can follow me. I post stories all the time. A lot of them are like working out, goalball, like different content, funny things. And generally, that's really the only social media I have. I have Facebook, but it's more like something I go on once in a while, and it's not like a public page. So I would just say just Instagram is where they could find me at.
Thank you again, Amanda Dennis, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you so much.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.